And we're back again, Jerry, with another bonus episode.
Absolutely, Tom. We're talking to a man whose voice is so sultry, it shows why we'll never escape this podcast hell we live in, Tom. We're never going to be radio stars. We don't sound like this guy.
It's unbelievable. Do you ever stand beside a real muscly fella in the gym and go, oh, fuck this?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is what this was for me.
It's just not going to happen.
No. It was just exactly that. When I heard Rick's voice, it was like, oh, Jesus, that's like honey. Oh,
but I will tell you one thing we have in common with Rick. We've done some shit gigs, Tom.
Damn right. And as we've been doing up until now, and the response has been absolutely glorious. Everybody has gotten in contact. We've endeared people, would you believe it, to some of our guests that they weren't fans of them before. I won't say who or which, but people have gotten in contact and said, I did not know that. They have revealed themselves, and now I like them far more than I had. And this is not what we intended. We just wanted to share the hell gigs that we've all had to do.
If anything, we were doing our best to turn people against each other, Tom.
This is the truth, because we do love a good row. There's no two ways about it. So yeah, that being said, Jerry, I think it's just as well we go ahead and introduce today's guest, the absolute sultry tones.
Introduce this man. I've known him as a voice on the radio going all the way back to the Atlantic 252 days.
Yes. Oh my God, yeah.
And I've met him a couple of times, and he's a real nice chap, and he was very, very thankfully donated his time to the Tom and Jerry show. So, Tom, why don't you spin it there, Mr. Ricochet?
Ricochet, welcome to the Tom and Jerry show. Let's hear you.
How's it going? Thanks a million for having me. Cheers.
There's that voice, very familiar to us all these years.
It's lovely, isn't it?
There's the man who's got the amazing microphone in front of him, which I can see. Obviously, this is not going out on video, but I can see your microphone. That's a magnificent microphone you have in front of you, Jerry. It really is.
Only had to skip one mortgage payment.
it looks like it. I'm on the headset on my phone. It's all good. It'll be grand.
Be perfect, Rick. Be perfect, Rick. How are you keeping these days?
That's always a loaded question in 2021, isn't it? It's like, how are you really? I can give you the answer which I give everybody else, which is grand, how's yourself? Or I can give you the real answer, which is, it's weird. I'm kind of indoctrinated to where we are right now. I think I feel like this is almost normal. This whole, you get up and I go out and I walk the dogs in the morning. I go into work. I've been going into work for the whole period, so I haven't been doing this from home. So I go into RTE, which has been like 28 days later for, certainly for the first 10 months of it, there was a skeleton crew and everybody was working from their houses. And occasionally, you'd find yourself driving through Donnybrook and it would be abandoned. You'd just step out of the car and go, you start taking pictures because you're going, I'm never going to get the chance to do this again. And there were months and months of that. And then there was the long, terrible winter. And now, just now, I hate giving myself hope. Hope is a dangerous thing.
Oh, don't you dare. Don't you dare.
Yeah. And don't think fucking say it 3 times, Rick. It's like Beetlejuice. It'll show up.
No, and it's that thing. I look out the window now where I am, and the sun is outside, and the weekend is almost here, and I bought a load of beer on my way home from work today.
Lovely.
And you start to give yourself that moment of, do you know what? We're almost at a point where things will start to feel a bit more like real life. And it will eventually. But having said that, it also means that I get to do stuff like this. And, I've done a lot of this stuff online and had conversations with people, and I've done interviews. And that's kind of come out of this as well. And I hope it's something that continues, is that, people continue to be like, massively creative in terms of like, putting out their own podcasts and their own video stuff. And, so there's good and bad in everything.
Well, we'll take that. I mean, one thing me and Tom have found that given that we haven't gigged ourselves in quite some time, we've started to reminisce fondly on even the terrible gigs. Rick, even the bad ones in hindsight now don't seem so bad. And we were wondering now, would you yourself have a worst gig ever that you'd like to share for us? That in hindsight, at the time, may not have seemed all that great, but in hindsight, you're thinking, you know what, I wouldn't mind it.
The thing about the gig I'm going to give you is that in hindsight, you may not actually believe me, and it sounds ever so slightly like a comedy sketch, but it's 100% true, and it really happened. Now, I'm like you guys these days. Gigging now means to me that I go off to a festival and I interview authors, and I do all that kind of stuff. I do that at literary festivals around the country and arts festivals. That's gigs for me, and that's brilliant, and I love doing it, and it's great. But a very long time ago, before I got involved in this part of the biz, I DJ'd like everybody else. Now, I was terrible. I was appalling. I apologize to anybody who hired me at any point, and anybody who gave me a few quid for turning up for 3 hours, because genuinely I was rank at it. So years ago, I started off when I was working in radio, and eventually I was in Dublin, and I started doing pub gigs when I was working in FM 104 in Dublin, and I did a few bits and pieces out beyond that, and then I kind of graduated to like small nightclubs. And I think I was working on RTE at that stage, the very, very, very early days of RTE. So you're talking about the bones of 20 years ago now at this stage. And I got myself a regular gig at Bray. I'd worked in Bray for a long time. I used to work in East Coast Radio. It was one of the first places that I ever had a proper job on radio. And there was a mate of mine who was working out there, and he knew somebody who wanted to know if I'd be interested in doing a gig. And I went out there every Saturday night to a nightclub called The Tube. Anybody who's from that part of Wicklow will remember The Tube.
Yeah.
And it was on Queensborough Road, which is, the middle of Bray, so it's down from where the old cinema used to be. And it was the place to be on Friday or Saturday night in Bray, mainly because there were no other places to be. Late bars weren't really a thing. It's a long time ago.
I love that the Tube, like there was
the Tube,
absolutely
what a name for
no
a place.
semblance of an underground whatsoever in the entire country. But went let's have the Tube.
It wasn't even attempting to go down. It wasn't even attempting to go down the whole Jules Holland, Channel 4 1992. It wasn't trying to be cool. It was just, this is the Tube. You're like, okay,
I mean, like a Pringle Tube.
I don't know if any of you have been up around Dundalk, but Tube is an insult up around Dundalk.
Can I ask what sort of insult?
Oh, bad one. It's not like, hey, meet my pal, he's a real tube. It's like,
oh, okay.
Whichever look at your man over there. In Dundalk, it's real, tube.
You tube.
Yeah, tube.
I like that I'm going to come out of this podcast and have learned something new as well. I like a bit of educational stuff on podcasts.
But you've come to the wrong place.
Yeah.
and the gig was like, it used to be fine and it was nice, and there were people who'd turn up and everybody would come up and give out to you because you weren't playing DJ Tiesto, and that was fine because in those days, they'd hired the likes of me because they wanted someone who played pop music. And there was always, and usually in most towns, if you ever went and gigged around the country, there was one nightclub that played hardcore dance music. And there was one nightclub that played, the Proclaimers. So there was always, there were only two places. But the Tube had kind of done, okay, and it had kind of fallen off. And I think the hotel, it was at the back of a hotel as well. It was about to go the way of the dinosaurs. I don't even think it's still there anymore. And what they did was, for the very last gig, I was long gone at that point. I hadn't worked there for a few years. And they asked me if I'd come back and do the final night. And I went, yeah, look, I don't think I was gigging anywhere else at that point. And then, yeah, grand, cool. Went out on a Saturday night and rocked up. And I thought, this is a bit quiet. And it was a bit quiet for the first half hour, 40 minutes. It was still a bit quiet. And at that stage, your alarm bells start to go off and you start to go, is there a reason this nightclub is closing? And the night didn't get any better. There was one group turned up with about 4 or 5 people who were actually involved in the running of the nightclub. And they turned up for about half an hour and left. And so I'm still going, lads, this isn't, look, I'm going to DJ, look, sure, what else have I got to do? And eventually, by the time we reached the end of the night, by whatever it was, 2 a.m, there were 2 lads who were both kind of in their mid-20s. They had that look of farmers who had come in somewhere from rural West Wicklow, and they had wanted to come in and make a big night out of it. And they probably had so many pints, they didn't necessarily realize they were the only ones at the dance floor. And they were the only 2 left at the end of the night. And eventually, at the end of the night, I played for about the last 10 minutes back to back. I played Ghost Town by the Specials. and I don't think they noticed, or I don't think they cared, or I don't think they got the Father Ted reference. I don't know if there was any of that in it. And eventually I just finished up and went, that's it, good night. And it's the only time I've ever gigged to pretty much nobody ever.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
It was rough.
Yeah.
I mean, like, at least you didn't get heckled, I suppose. If there wasn't enough of a crowd to heckle you.
No, that was a normal week. I was well used to that. That would happen when you went down. Usually, in the early days of 2FM, I haven't DJed in a really, really, really long time. But in the first kind of maybe 8 or 9 years I was in 2FM, I'd go and DJ. Usually the furthest away from Dublin you were, the bigger crowds you got, because, the further away you were, 2FM was a really big thing. And there were always places, though, you'd go where, you'd have lads hanging around, looking at you going, who's your man? thinks he's from Dublin, does he? Right, okay. And it was always part of the gig, and you'd always get on with it, and the same person would come up asking for the same song 12 times in a row, and you have to go to them, listen, I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to play Metallica. It won't fit with everything else we're looking for here.
Yeah.
Good luck to you. But, I was always terrible. I've always felt like I should make some sort of public apology to anybody who ever hired me because I was woeful. And so I'm really, really, really sorry, but not for that night. For that night, I'm really thrilled.
I'm loving the notion that one of the lads would have stumbled over to you and go, "Hey, would you play Cotton Eye Joe? Would you?"
I would have been glad. Cotton Eye Joe would have been great.
Honestly, Rick, if I'd have been there and the lads showed up with an hour to go, half an hour had gone by and they're the only two lads there, I would have kicked off the slow set and see what happened.
Oh, that's a nice one. I hadn't quite thought of that. Or
just
maybe I wanted to leave alive. Yeah, it's a tough line.
Just bang in Celine Dion, The Power of Love. Just
anything by Meatloaf. You're good. Yeah.
Oh my God! Did they come after you if you didn't play the national anthem?
It depended on what part of the country you were in. And it was very, very rarely you'd go somewhere and someone would look strange at you if you hadn't played the national anthem. I think the only time it ever happened anywhere was Castlebar, I think. And don't ask me why. I played in other bits of Mayo and nobody would look twice at you. But I think Castlebar was the only time when someone came up to the end of the night and went, "Where's the national anthem?" And I wanted to say to them, it's not 1957, but I wanted to make it out alive. And I was a lover, not a fighter. So no.
Yeah, you gotta pick your clothes. I mean, like, you're talking to a man that went to the same nightclub 100 nights in a row all these times. So, but the kicking out song in our local nightclub was always "You'll Never Walk Alone." That once you heard that, the lights came on, they played "You'll Never Walk Alone," and 9 times out of 10, you did walk alone out of the nightclub, empty-handed. Yeah.
To be fair, I mean, it fits perfectly in with the worst gig ever, because the fact that you were already teeing up with, look, lads, I was brutal from the outset, so I didn't really deserve anything more than what I got.
I just think in today's COVID world, it's great that you were at a gig that was socially distanced.
And socially distanced in spades. Like, they were a long, long way from. It was a big nightclub. I could barely see them. So, to be honest with you, I know it's very easy to say that, I was honest and open about the whole being terrible at it. But this is only something I've come to in my later years, where I feel like I can admit to the sins of my past and actually come out and say, listen, I'm really sorry.
Wonderful. Rick,
beautiful stuff.
That is... You've left us with a picture of a horror gig in Bray, which I got to tell you, myself and Tom have had a few ourselves.
Yeah, I have actually. Yeah,
but yours, at least there was people at ours, that could put a bit of weight behind their booze.
Yeah, I'm getting semblances of like the Cecil Hotel happening here, where it was. Which is no longer there anymore. Was it on the seafront, Rick, or where was this?
No, it was on Queensborough Road. So if you come in from the Dublin side, you turn left on Queensborough Road, where the old cinema used to be.
Yeah,
and it was a hotel about halfway down on the left hand side.
I know the road. I do know the road. That's how you used to get down to the Harbour Bar, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah. Yes. Don't talk to me about the Harbour Bar. I used to live out that way. And I lived out that way for a few years. I don't anymore. I live back in Dublin now. But the Harbour Bar is the one thing I miss about that part of the world. It was a great spot.
Well, it was a great spot. It ran gigs, and it's one of the. Although I had a lot of nice nights in it, I'll not say I didn't. But it is one of the only venues where I got booed off the stage. So was
that your fault or their fault?
Oh no, I had it earned, Rick. I had it well earned. I was just kind of taking the mic away, going like, "Boo! Fuck this guy! Get him off the stage!" just to get it going.
And I know what the gig space is like in the Harbour Bar as well. That's a very small space. They would have been right up in front of you.
Yeah, it was kind of an attic room that they'd done up upstairs, and I was gigging to 4 people one night up there, and then a guy, because there'd been a football match on, Ireland were playing, and they were giving free burgers outside on the pavement, and then this guy and his what looked like his mother walked up the stairs and went, "Oh Jesus," when he saw me, and just walked back down again. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll take that. You got the upstairs room, Tom. I remember like back. Maybe it might even be before you started. I know I'm only a year at it longer than you, but that year there's some fucking miles on it, pal. Before that, there was like a space downstairs, and it was like you went round the back past this shrine to Aleister Crowley, and Because it was all like a cult as hell in there. Like all the decor was like ravens and shit. And then they kicked you out the back onto a stage, and then they kicked you off it again just as swiftly.
The memories.
But let's not do Bray Down. Bray is a fine spot. It just didn't suit us all the time.
Yeah. Do the people at home like Bray? Let us know in the comments. Other than that, Rick, thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and another one to add to our library of worst gigs ever.
Not a bit. My absolute pleasure, gents. Fair play. Cheers.
Thanks a million, Rick. Cheers. Well, I tell you, I think we can all wrap our teeth around that one, can't we, Jer?
Forget it, Tom. It's Bray.
I didn't want to say it. Really, it's a fine town. Yes, it is, and but I'm well shot at the place. I'm well shot at the place, Jer.
With that being said, if you have any gigs going in Bray, let us know. We'll be down in a shot.
Absolutely. Even if it is just the two fellas, the Cotton Eye Joe down the back of the hall, we'll take it.
Tom, tell the people what we'd like them to do. That was another great episode, and we can't believe we're just like giving these away. And what are we asking people to do in return?
Stand near Sweet FA, Jerry McBride. Obviously, yeah, thanks of course to Rick, but yes, we need you to share, comment, like, support, tell everybody about it. And you have been, because the numbers have been going up for sure. Yeah. Fair feckin' platey. We will, of course, at the end of the season, as per last season as well, we will have a Best Comments Award. Best comment as per you write on your comments board, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Acast, or wherever you can comment. But don't worry if you can't. Just write something nice, screen grab it, and tag us in it on whatever platform, because we're on both the two main ones, Instagram and Twitter, and not Facebook, because we're not 85-year-old single, people living by ourselves. So Instagram, Twitter, best place to find us.
I feel like we haven't needled people for 5-star reviews lately, Tom.
Yeah.
5-star reviews. You're fucking slacking off, you guys.
Yeah, up them. And you know what? Why not screen grab them as well and tag us, because they don't alert you of them. And we got some from Canada the other day, chap from Canada, and we don't see that. We can't see those ones, because when we just look it up, it'll only ever show the Irish one. So if you are listening abroad and you do give us the 5 stars on whatever platform you're on, please screen grab it, send it to us. You go on the hat to win something. So 5 stars, tasty comment. Other than that, Jer,
there we go. That's it, Tom. We'll see all these fine folks back again on Monday with more Tom and Jerry goodness, don't you know?
Absolutely. So go healthy, go mind yourself, wash the hands, wash the face, and we'll talk to you again on Monday.